The church was dressed in white and gold, flowers spilling from every corner, candles flickering like nervous hearts. The guests filled the pews with chatter that didn't sound like celebration, it sounded like gossip dressed in perfume. When the organ began to play, the sound was too grand, too heavy, for the girl standing behind the double doors trying to breathe. Clara's fingers dug into her bouquet, the roses trembling as much as her hands. She had imagined this moment 1,000 times, but never once like this, never with the air thick with judgment, never with laughter already waiting to spill. Her uncle whispered from behind, "It's time," and pushed the door open. Every head turned. Every eye looked her up and down. The laughter started small, like a cough someone failed to hide, but it spread. Clara kept her chin high, her smile tight, her steps deliberate. The white satin gown hugged her soft figure, the one she'd been told was brave for wearing white. She could hear a woman whisper, "She should have chosen something darker," and another giggle, "Poor Preston." At the far end, under the archway, stood Preston Clay. Handsome, perfect, the kind of man who looked carved from the same stone the town worshipped. He'd once told her he loved her curves, said she was real, said she made him feel human. But this morning, when he saw her, something flickered in his eyes, fear, maybe, or shame. He hadn't said much since. Now, standing in front of all those people, he looked like a man cornered by his own choices. Clara's heart thudded painfully against her ribs. She tried to focus on him, on the man who had whispered vows to her in the dark, who said love didn't care about size. She wanted to believe he was still that man. The music swelled, her heels clicked softly against the floor, and she thought if she just reached him, maybe this would stop feeling like a public trial. But when she reached the altar, he didn't reach for her hand. He looked down instead, and his friends, those smug, polished men from his city job, snickered. One of them whispered something, and Preston's jaw tightened. The pastor cleared his throat. "We are gathered here to..." "Wait," Preston said, his voice barely above a murmur. The word hung there, awful and heavy. Clara blinked, unsure she'd heard right. "What?" He looked up, eyes flickering toward the crowd before meeting hers. I can't do this." The air went still. The organ stopped. Somewhere in the back, someone gasped, someone else laughed. Clara's lips parted, but no sound came out. She thought he was joking, he had to be. "Preston," she whispered. "Don't do this. Not like this." He took a step back. "I'm sorry. I thought I could, but I can't." "What do you mean, you can't?" Her voice cracked, trembling. He rubbed the back of his neck. "You're a good person, Clara. But this isn't right. You deserve someone who what?" She interrupted. "Who what, Preston? Who isn't ashamed to be seen with me?" He didn't answer. His silence was worse than cruelty. It was cowardice wrapped in pity. Around them, the whispers grew into waves, snickers, pitying sighs, someone even muttered, "Can't say I blame him." Her mother covered her face with her hands, unable to watch. The bridesmaids looked away. And Clara, she felt her entire life cave in. Her bouquet slipped from her hands, scattering white petals over her shoes like snow over a grave. For a long moment, she just stood there, trembling, breath shallow, heart cracking open in front of everyone she knew. Then something inside her broke, clean and sharp. She turned without a word, gathered the hem of her dress, and walked out of the church. Not running, walking, because even now, she refused to give them the satisfaction of seeing her flee. Outside, the sky had opened, rain falling hard and cold. Her dress clung to her body, heavy with water, the white fabric now streaked with mud. Each step down the church steps echoed like a drumbeat. By the time she reached the road, she was shivering, mascara streaking down her face, her curls plastered against her cheeks. Cars drove past, some slowing just enough for the passengers to recognize her and whisper. She kept walking, away from the laughter, away from the betrayal, away from the life she had planned. Her heels sank into the dirt road, the veil tore on a thorn bush, but she didn't stop. The rain mixed with her tears until she couldn't tell which was which. She didn't know where she was going, just that every step hurt a little less than standing still. Headlights cut through the rain behind her. A truck slowed, its tires crunching over gravel. The driver leaned out, his voice rough and steady. "Miss, you need help." She turned, blinking against the light. He was a big man, broad shoulders, a weathered cowboy hat pulled low over kind eyes. There was no judgment in his face, just concern. She wanted to tell him she was fine, that she didn't need anyone. But her voice failed her. The words that finally came out were raw and small. Please, just take me somewhere else. He nodded once. All right, hop in. She climbed into the truck, the smell of rain and hay filling the cab. The man handed her a worn handkerchief. Name's Cole, he said, his voice gentle. You look like you've had a day. Clara let out a laugh that wasn't really a laugh, more a release of all the pain she'd been holding in. You could say that. He didn't ask for details. He just drove, steady and quiet, the windshield wipers keeping time with her heartbeat. Outside, the rain softened, the world turning from gray to silver. After a while, she asked, why'd you stop? He shrugged. Because you looked like you needed someone to. The road curved through open country, fields stretching forever on both sides. When the truck finally stopped, it was in front of a small ranch house glowing softly in the night. The porch light flickered like a heartbeat, warm and alive. Before Clara could say anything, a small voice called out from the porch. Daddy, you're home. A little girl ran out, her pigtails bouncing, barefoot and smiling. Who's that? She asked, pointing at Clara. Cole smiled faintly. She's a friend who needs a place to rest, Ellie. The girl looked at Clara with wide, curious eyes. Then she grinned. She's pretty, Daddy. Clara froze. The word hit her like a wave, pretty. Not brave, not kind, not trying her best. Just pretty. She hadn't heard it in years without hearing laughter behind it. Cole's gaze softened. Yeah, he said quietly, tipping his hat. Yeah, she is. And in that small, simple moment, standing in borrowed light, soaked in rain and heartbreak, Clara felt seen, maybe for the first time in her life. The morning light crept gently across the wooden floorboards, waking Clara with a warmth she hadn't felt in years. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. The sound of clucking hens outside, a kettle whistling faintly in the kitchen, and the smell of brewed coffee, all of it felt foreign and comforting at once. She sat up slowly, blinking at the sun filtering through thin curtains, painting golden lines across the little room. Her ruined wedding dress hung over a chair, still damp, the white now dulled to ivory. She stared at it for a long time, the symbol of everything she had lost and everything that had ended. When she finally stepped out of the room, she found Cole in the kitchen, standing by the stove with a spatula in hand, frying eggs. His hat hung on a peg near the door, his dark hair slightly mussed. There was something steady about him, like he belonged to the rhythm of the land, unbothered by the noise of the world. Mornin', he said without turning, his voice easy, unhurried. Hope you like coffee. I made it strong. Clara managed a small smile. I'll take strong today. He handed her a chipped mug, the steam curling between them. You sleep all right. She nodded, though her voice was quiet when she answered, better than I thought I would. Good. My little one's out back feeding the chickens. She's been talking about you all morning. About me. He chuckled. She don't meet many new people around here. Said she likes your hair. Said you smile nice, too. Clara's throat tightened. Compliments had always felt like tricks before, words people used to cover discomfort. But from Ellie, a child with no motive, no filter, it sounded real. She took a sip of coffee to hide the tremor in her lips. She's a sweet girl. She is, Cole said softly. Keeps this place alive, truth be told. Silence settled between them, comfortable this time. Outside, a rooster crowed. The sound of wind brushing against the old barn drifted through the open window. Clara glanced around. The home was simple, a patchwork of years and hard work. Family pictures on the wall, some faded. A pair of tiny boots by the door. A warmth that didn't come from money or polish, but from living. After breakfast, she found Ellie sitting cross-legged on the porch, humming to herself, arranging wildflowers in a row. When she saw Clara, she jumped up. You're awake. Daddy said maybe you'd stay for lunch. Can you help me with the flowers? Clara couldn't help but laugh. I suppose I can do that. She knelt beside the girl, her fingers brushing petals still damp with dew. They worked quietly, Ellie chattering about her pony named Dusty and her friend from school who liked to collect shiny rocks. Each small story loosened the knot in Clara's chest. After a while, Ellie looked up suddenly and said, You looked sad last night. Clara hesitated. I was. Did someone make you cry? The little girl asked simply. Clara nodded, eyes soft. Yes. Someone I thought loved me. Ellie frowned, the kind of frown only a child could make, honest, unfiltered. Then they're silly. Daddy says when you love someone, you make them smile, not cry. Clara blinked, her heart catching. Your daddy sounds like a smart man. He is, Ellie said proudly. But sometimes he looks sad too. When he misses Mama. The words hung heavy in the air. Clara turned to look toward the barn, where Cole was mending a fence, his movements slow, deliberate. She hadn't asked about the woman in the photographs, hadn't wanted to pry. But now, she understood the shadow behind his calm eyes. Come on, Ellie said, grabbing Clara's hand. Daddy says the horses like it when people talk to them. Maybe they'll like you too. They walked to the barn together, the smell of hay and leather thick in the air. Cole looked up as they entered, wiping sweat from his brow. Making friends with the animals already. She's gonna help me name the new foal, Ellie said excitedly. Well, that's an honor, Cole said, smiling faintly at Clara. She smiled back, her heart warming at the sight of the two of them. What about Daisy? She suggested, petting the foal's soft muzzle. Ellie gasped. That's perfect. Daisy it is, then, Cole said. They spent the morning in the barn, talking about simple things, the weather, the crops, Ellie's plans to grow a garden next spring. Clara had almost forgotten what peace sounded like until now. The air here didn't care what she weighed, what she wore, or how broken her heart was. It just held her quietly, like an embrace that expected nothing in return. Around noon, Cole grilled some bread and beans out on the porch. They ate together, the breeze brushing over them. When Ellie went inside to fetch her doll, Cole finally spoke. You know, you don't have to tell me what happened. But if you need to get it off your chest, I'm a good listener. Clara stared at the horizon before answering. He left me at the altar. Said I wasn't what he wanted after all. Cole didn't look shocked or sorry. He just looked angry in that quiet, protective way some men have when they hear about someone being wronged. Then he didn't deserve to stand next to you. She gave a small, broken laugh. You say that like you know me. I don't have to know you, he said, leaning back. I can see how my daughter looks at you. Kids see things clearer than grown-ups. You walked in here soaked to the bone, and she called you pretty. That's the kind of pretty no storm can wash off. Something inside her shifted. His voice wasn't coated with pity or flattery, it was steady, honest. She hadn't realized how starved she'd been for simple kindness until this man spoke it like a fact. Thank you, she whispered, unable to meet his eyes. He smiled, faint and genuine. Ain't nothing to thank me for. Ellie came back then, holding 2 flowers. She tucked one behind Clara's ear and said, now you look happy. Cole chuckled softly. She's got a point. As the day wore on, Clara found herself helping around the ranch, hanging laundry, brushing the horses, listening to Ellie's endless stories. Every hour stitched a little more life back into her. When the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of amber and violet, the three of them sat on the porch steps. Ellie rested her head on Clara's shoulder, half asleep, her tiny fingers still gripping Clara's sleeve. Cole glanced at her and said quietly, you got somewhere to go after this. Clara shook her head. Nowhere that feels right anymore. He nodded slowly, then looked out toward the fading horizon. You can stay here a while if you want. No expectations, no questions. Just, stay. She turned to him, startled. Are you sure? Yeah, he said simply. This place could use another laugh. Ellie could use another friend. And maybe you could use a place to remember what peace feels like. Her throat tightened again, but this time, it wasn't from pain. It was from something she hadn't felt in a long time, hope. When she finally spoke, her voice trembled. Then maybe I'll stay. Ellie stirred, mumbling sleepily, yay, I told you she's pretty, Daddy. Cole smiled at his daughter, then at Clara. Yeah, sweetheart, you sure did. And as the stars began to blink awake above them, Clara looked out over the wide, quiet land and felt something she'd forgotten she could feel, belonging. The laughter that once haunted her faded into memory, replaced by the sound of a child's soft breathing and a cowboy's steady presence beside her. For the first time, she wasn't running away from anything. She was home.